Thanks for joining us. This is Omni View, episode 105 for July 7th, 2026. Balanced news perspectives. Here's the news, the perspectives, and the questions worth asking. NATO allies convene in Ankara as defense spending debates and regional security concerns shape outcomes for member nations facing shifting global threats. Leaders of NATO's 32 member states are holding 2 days of talks in the Turkish capital. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said the summit aims to ensure the military alliance continues to deliver. The gathering focuses on defense deals and alliance coordination. German and other European officials emphasize the need for sustained military investment to maintain collective security amid ongoing regional tensions, arguing that unified commitments strengthen deterrence. Turkish hosts highlight the summit's role in balancing alliance priorities with national interests, noting that hosting allows direct input on agenda items. Critics within some member states question whether increased spending commitments will deliver measurable security gains without straining domestic budgets. The question worth considering is what specific defense commitments are under discussion at this stage. Shifting now to developments in Syria. Explosions injured 18 people in Damascus as French President Macron arrived for meetings. Syrian state television reported that the president welcomed Macron at the presidential palace shortly after the blasts. Syrian officials framed the visit as a diplomatic opening despite the security incident, stressing continuity of state functions. French representatives focus on the importance of engagement in the region even amid instability. Local observers note that the timing raises questions about coordination between security measures and high-level travel. The question worth considering is what was the intended purpose of Macron's visit? Next, market movements tied to a reported incident in the Strait of Hormuz. Brent and U.S. crude futures rose following a report of an Iranian attack on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. The incident prompted immediate market reaction. Energy traders point to the strait's role as a critical choke point, noting that any disruption there directly affects global supply routes. Iranian authorities have not confirmed details in the provided reports, leaving the exact sequence of events open to further verification. Market analysts track how quickly prices adjust to unverified reports versus confirmed incidents. The question worth considering is how dependent global oil supply remains on the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Germany's cabinet has approved a draft budget for 2027 that increases military funding while cutting elsewhere and allows debt to grow rapidly. The plan now moves to Parliament for approval. Government supporters argue that higher defense allocations address current security requirements without immediate tax increases. Opposition voices in Parliament stress the long-term risks of rising debt levels for future fiscal flexibility. Fiscal watchdogs note that the shift marks a departure from previous balanced budget priorities. The question worth considering is which spending areas face reductions under this proposal. Turning to events in India, a landslide in Kerala's Wayanad district killed at least 2 people and injured 7. Officials said more than 10 people could be trapped under the debris. Local rescue teams prioritize rapid extraction efforts given the risk of further slides. State officials coordinate resources while assessing whether earlier warnings were sufficient. Residents in the area seek clarity on long-term safety measures for hillside communities. The question worth considering is what weather or geological factors contributed to the slide. In other world news, Iran's former president, Ahmadinejad, was seen at the supreme leader's funeral weeks after state media had announced his death during a U.S. conflict. The appearance contradicted earlier reports. Iranian state outlets have not explained the earlier announcement, leaving the discrepancy unresolved in available coverage. Observers note that public appearances at such events can signal continuity within the political structure. International analysts watch for any clarification on the conflicting reports. The question worth considering is what prompted the initial death report. South African police are investigating an attempted murder case after a Zimbabwean football star was targeted. No arrests have been made so far. Police emphasize that the investigation remains active and urge witnesses to come forward. The player's representatives focus on his recovery and safety. Sports communities in both countries express concern over rising violence affecting athletes. The question worth considering is what details have police released about the attack? On the business side, SpaceX is joining the NASDAQ 100 index, and analysts at major global brokers are recommending investors buy shares. The move reflects growing institutional interest. Brokerage analysts highlight SpaceX's valuation trajectory and contract backlog as reasons for the positive stance. Index inclusion is expected to bring passive investment flows. Some market participants caution that private company valuations can shift quickly with new developments. The question worth considering is what criteria determine NASDAQ 100 inclusion. Chile's Codelco is dealing with $25 billion of debt while facing questions over a fatal accident and production figures. Demand for copper is increasing due to AI-related power needs. Company management stresses ongoing modernization efforts to meet future demand. Debt holders monitor repayment capacity amid fluctuating commodity prices. Industry observers note that production reliability will determine whether the miner can capitalize on rising copper needs. The question worth considering is how the debt level has evolved in recent years. Astronomers have analyzed the composition and age of interstellar comet 3I Atlas, suggesting it could be 3 times older than Earth. The object was confirmed as a comet, but its origins required further study. Research teams present the age estimate as a result of spectral analysis and modeling. Other astronomers note that confirming interstellar origins involves comparing multiple data sets. The findings add to the catalog of objects entering the solar system from outside. The question worth considering is what methods determine the comet's age. Sarah Cox, 51, took over the Radio 2 breakfast show from Scott Mills and received positive reviews from critics for bringing a sense of mischief to the slot. Listeners and reviewers highlight the presenter's established style as a fit for the morning audience. Station management positioned the change as a refresh of the flagship program. Some longtime listeners compare the new approach with previous hosts. The question worth considering is what elements define the show's new tone. Actor Matt Damon, 55, took his daughters Stella, 15, and Gia, 17, to an after-party for The Odyssey at a Mayfair private members club, where they mingled with the cast. The family appeared together at the event following the film's screening. Attendees noted the daughters interacting with other cast members in a social setting. Coverage focuses on the public outing rather than professional details. The question worth considering is what was the occasion for the gathering? Now, to really understand the NATO story, there's something most coverage leaves out. Most coverage treats NATO summits as simple gatherings where leaders issue joint statements, yet the real process involves months of behind-the-scenes bargaining over spending targets and capability targets before any public announcement. Each member state arrives with national budget constraints and domestic political calendars that shape what it can promise, so agreements often emerge as phased commitments rather than immediate spending increases. The Secretary General's role is to broker compromises that keep all 32 nations aligned without forcing any single capital into an untenable position at home. Knowing this, when headlines announce new defense pledges, readers can check whether the numbers represent fresh cash or previously planned outlays simply relabeled for the summit. Next time, coverage highlights a historic spending goal. Ask which countries must still secure parliamentary approval, what verification mechanism exists for the pledges, and how past summit targets have actually translated into delivered capabilities over subsequent years. Before we go, tomorrow watch for further updates on how member states respond to the Ankara commitments once parliamentary reviews begin. That's Omni View. For full source links and more context, check out today's written briefing on the Omni View summaries page. As always, compare outlets, look for primary documents, and separate what's known from what's assumed. If balanced perspectives are valuable to you, share this with a friend and subscribe wherever you listen. See you tomorrow. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at Nara Network. Links in the show notes. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts on tech, science, and markets. Each one a short, sharp briefing you can finish on the commute. If today earned its place in your feed, here's your next listen. Models and Agents for Beginners. Artificial Intelligence Explained Simply for Beginners and Curious Teens. Find every show free at neranetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.